Hi, Yashavira again in the class notes. I wanted to take a moment to show you one small change I made for very big reasons. That change, if you look on the screen, is below, where we got to simple interest. When we got to this section, I taught everything the same way, I used the same class notes, but this is the part that I got rid of this year, the formula. So the reason why I did that is trying to push myself this year to not teach kids the old way that I used to teach, which was very much formulaic. It's the way that I learned how to do math. And I loved algebra. I loved equations because I was really good at memorizing them, but also because I motivated myself to understand why the equations looked the way they did. Not all of my kids do that. A lot of my kids hold on to the algorithm, hold on to the equation, and that inhibits them from conceptualizing what the problem is asking them to do. This has very major implications in Common Core as we move less and less away from prescribed word problems and more toward real-world problem situations. So rather than asking kids to always find the total, principal amount plus interest, more and more questions are posing complicated situations where either students need to understand that only the interest matters, or maybe only the interest matters for several years, or perhaps there is a situation where there's a principal amount plus an interest, and then a certain amount gets deducted. It is more important now in the new curriculum, at least it seems to me, like students need to understand the words and the problem situations because they're connecting to real life. So that was one thing I got rid of in the class notes. A small change, but it was definitely a big deal to my kids because I had no way of telling them how to do these problems. I simply taught them that interest is a percentage or a piece of a principal amount. I did introduce that word. And then I went right into the word problem. Students practice calculating the percent of a number in the do now. So I used that do now problem to complete this problem. So that's another change that I made. I changed the numbers so that they were the same for the third example in the do now, and I had them calculate 2% of $15,000. But then I also threw in this change to simplify it on this end. Instead of 3 months, we had 3 years, so that this annual interest rate still applied and they weren't thinking about pieces afterward. So using the do now linked into the class notes, getting rid of the equation, is how I try to get my kids to think behind this question. Think about the fact that this question here is different from this question down here. That was followed by independent practice, which I did keep the same as last year. The challenging part here for number 1 is that we have a decimal percent. So that's going to challenge some students in terms of the conversions, and I can look out for that and easily see it as I'm walking around. So yeah, very important big changes, and I hope that's helpful. Thank you.